Dave.
I wasn't able to go, but
Kevin, our new assistant clerk.
Kevin, nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Oh,
Welcome aboard.
thank you. Dave, working with
we're slowly trying to.
chairman of personnel and the vice chair of street.
I run the whole street on Sunday mornings, so almost like look at things a little pretty, I mean, I don't know, and for me it's elaborate, but I'm sure it's not elaborate by, you know, professional standards. Got a legal system with lots of operating cameras.
I'm here to facilitate.
Yeah. With the beams in there and everything. Yeah, definitely.
Most of the time it's 4 people over there. Aren't there? And then 3 people I'm over here to facilitate that. When Marty comes, he's normally here. So he doesn't always come. That's why.
If there's something that doesn't take over the whole street.
As you saw, everybody gets just the event, not the whole package. Council gets the rough rules version.
System.
Previous court says, you know, these guys are all protected at one time, and then you don't have to deal with Charlie Burger. Yeah, I have the big,
Hey, how are you?
books back. Big books. That's on my desk. I actually, I did college pro competition. As a heavyweight since becoming it was just kind of happy coincidence.
We just ended up working,
Benefited from that.
I think we'll go do something in the summer.
I really enjoyed at the state tournament.
Well, of course, I'm like sitting
Very
there,
fun.
more than a year, and I've got vacation time, so I was actually looking this morning. Yeah, that's exactly it. Because usually my days that I take off in the year is doing the mulch and the ground
And
garden.
then
So
give
it's like,
you
maybe I'll take an extra day so I can actually relax. I'll do the mulching and
20
sit
minutes.
out.
Here, is you pretend to be effective. And they give you
Yeah,
20 minutes.
right.
This is the issue you're considering. You must make particularly 20 minutes to write a script.
Something like that pops up. I
Completely correct.
guess it was 2 years ago. I was making a string, the kids and I were making a string thing.
Okay, you can talk to them. You
Of
bet.
course, I was running into a situation where nails were popping out of the thing.
Do something, let me know.
I was
Yeah,
going,
okay.
The national
and I'm sitting there Indian style, trying to do this thing stringing.
Oh, Chuck.
Oh, Brad. I could feel it in my thumb, and then something here was really worse.
I mean, hypnosis is up in really where you get points on. You get points on.
It's like, oh, I wish the age where you get up on the wrong side of the bed.
How you doing, Brad?
Good, I don't.
No, that's all right.
Just chit chatting.
You know, and I've seen you before, I've never introduced myself, I'm Jamie.
Brad, Brad
Nice to meet you,
Davis.
Brad.
No locks,
Still no one.
no lock, but
how about you go ahead and pass it, but you just don't sign it?
I can wait till the lock.
The lock's here. The guy here at 11:15 this AM,
Hello, Mayor.
but it's not on.
Office takes a long time.
This is Canton.
It's me, boss. But
Okay, I didn't know anything. Okay,
I just thought I'd throw that out, so, you know, you guys will do what you do.
thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
We learned much, we learned much, just prior to the
I know it's
Very close to the.
as a temporary.
I do try. Exactly, right? Yeah. Does not cooperate. He's just been looking at his cars. I think he has allergies. Well, like something you're not usually put your hairs. Oh. And then you have some facial hair coming. Yeah. It looks like he's going for a whole new look.
Now I just decided I should get a haircut in a couple weeks ago.
I walked out of the house and was like, I put the hole in my hair. So I've been outside all day. It's a disaster. Whatever.
You can barely see us on the
Right.
Look at me and ask me if I'm ready, and I'll say yes.
Hey, Christina, are you handling the volunteers then?
You know,
It looked like it.
no, I always have, but this year Carrie asked Rachel to help head it up, so,
Oh, because I got an email
you did? Okay,
where I could sign up and stuff.
yeah,
It looked like it came from you.
okay.
That's why I asked.
Did it say it came from?
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's too, Mondays are tough.
Yeah,
But
right.
it looked like, I thought it looked like
Okay,
but it has the same sign up as last year.
yeah, so it's all my stuff from last year, I don't know. Are you gonna volunteer?
Absolutely.
Cool, it's a good thing.
It's Saturday.
We talking beer fest? Who's gonna volunteer?
I volunteer.
Okay.
Registration. We just said
The cables.
Nice.
Under a door.
Yes, it's at Lincoln.
And then, set it up. In the door, close the door, that's 7 cables.
Yes.
Any piece of
You're
fiction.
welcome.
Turns off.
Sorry for my meltdown.
Hey, Brett.
You know, all good now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on the sign.
You need like one of those little,
Should we just turn it on? Then just-
yeah, it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Is this correct?
The other time we have is these are,
I was over at
in order to have them not
But there is a way
echo.
to
Okay.
Okay.
So if you listen to much, you get to turn your volume up too. Stuff under. If we turn these up much louder, you're gonna hear 3 of me, talking through the 2 microphones. So I'm almost ready. That's what it is. That's what Jason James said.
You gotta make that with a 60.
Yeah.
It's big.
Get it.
Essentially,
I can't see anything. It just happened like 3 months ago. Like, I can see. Yeah, it's so strange.
So you wanna,
I wasn't here.
Yeah, that passed.
And now,
Yeah.
Brad, you do actually have something for you.
yeah.
Don't look at me like that. You just need to be in there.
Oh, I can see it from the bottom of my driveway.
Oh, that's nice, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I took a picture of 628. Okay.
Yeah.
What's not up?
So the words are changed, and I mean, it's in
Sure.
tag.
I can do that.
Yeah, like we said in the newsletter, we're, for voting purposes, it won't change.
Yeah, that's a nice job on your park over there.
Board of Elections.
Driven by, you've seen it,
Oh, I've been there a few times.
Which.
working on the
we don't
grand
have municipal
opening.
elections this year, anyway. so
Weather
not really.
cooperates, it'll be
Might
pretty soon
affect
here.
some liquor options.
Okay.
That's about it. If somebody's polling place does change, they'll get, by law, they have to get a physical letter in the mail from the board. But that's all, it's all in the board of elections. Well, actually, because of what's going on with the state, they
There might
might,
not even be an election.
well, they'll probably redraw precincts whenever they finally get those districts, right? So our ward changes will sort of be incorporated into that larger thing.
It's, but it's not.
I don't remember off the top of my head the effective date of the ward changes, but it's some week of April. Some number in the. Yeah, I mean, you guys continue to serve from when you were elected. Because we can't, because you're elected, so we can't change your elected mandate in the term. That would be restricted. So until the end of this term, you represent people who So next May, when we get to that's when it'll really. Because then you have to be qualified from whatever your new ward is. A lot of apartments up there.
Yeah.
I mean, he had made it back in the 80s.
So for the next year and a half, athletic fields, Washington, but are still here. The stadium might be done by then.
Was there
No, they're
already
building
a
this.
forest?
And that should be done.
See, I mean, I can see that there was like, but then I still, okay.
You can just stand on top of the pedestrian tunnel.
Oh, yeah, we knew.
Well, and then, for the 4th of July, lots of people go sit and watch.
Good.
When you see Sam, I don't know if it's maybe.
Yes,
That's
yes.
Miss Long, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to
It's
meet you.
Mayor Steve. And great on advancements at the park and some other things.
Yeah, I'm getting a like a book in.
It's very, you know.
I'm getting ready, I'm working, I'm also on Ferris, so I've been a little bit slow to catch up, but. Another day. No. I can get it right now, I don't have a car.
I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Oh, you're fine.
Well, I was wandering out on the super.
You should have, I mean, if I were there, I would have seen him. Oh, nice to meet you.
I'll be,
Weather permitting.
Is it always? I know, why did we even say that in Ohio? There's time, just hope it doesn't.
I don't want to.
I know it's probably not gonna be super warm, but it'll be spring warm.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's all you need.
Oh, I didn't see it. I'm looking for it actually.
Okay, yeah. That's what it is, yes.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
It's been so much written. So much discussed. It's probably kind of lost its sort of cutting and relevancy. So it's been sort of, the content certainly. But it's I was looking, you know, I have a dictionary. Those are the guys.
Oh, did you? Did it feel warm out? Not bad. Yeah. Oh.
When you go to check it out?
Yeah. So I said, so
Yeah.
took off the circulation shelf.
Might have an answer.
She looked at my card and she said, here, let me have it. I'll check you right
Do you
now.
never thought about that? Wow.
I don't know what happened, but it must be, you know, they might have my photo, you know.
I mean, probably that makes
Unless
sense.
kind of a post
Like
office.
VIP.
Give this man what he wants.
No, it's a front profile, you know, only now, there's a number.
Maybe he's old enough. That's really the only way we can.
Well, I've got one of that vintage yellow car.
Even though I look at it. They are, yeah, they don't. Yes. Okay.
Really?
Next door neighbor.
Inspector.
It's like my 12-year-old, you know,
Okay, good. So I think you used to talk about there. Yeah, yeah.
Did all right with that.
Great.
Just on, my wife was skiing. My wife flew home, one of the boys stayed out for cross country to LA.
Gives everybody an opportunity to have to like buy or.
Kay was more.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's hard. No, you know, like a family car, you know. Yeah.
being opposed. And we wanted to. Yep.
Right.
It doesn't say.
Now call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting on April 4th, 2022. Time is 7 p.m. Ben, would you please call the roll?
Member Orr? Here. Member Matheny?
Here.
Member Revolt? Here. Member Shroyer?
Here.
Member Waring?
Here.
Member Wyrick?
Here.
Member McLeese?
Here.
Seven members.
Community and Economic Development, Daryl.
Thank you very much. A year or so ago, we adopted our DORA legislation, and at the time of its adoption and Commission's implementation, we discussed bringing it back after a year to evaluate our progress. The law requires a 5-year look back, but we thought at the time, and suspect even today, that thought it would be a good idea to take a peek. So, as you'll notice, it was ordinance 55/2020. You have on the screens the sort of DORA basics, as well as the DORA district is defined by our ordinance. You may recall that we shrank it a little bit. And I thought tonight what we would do is, you want to move to the next slide, kind of give you the sort of the basic one-page recap, cheat sheet. We've got 4 participating holders, 2 permanent, 2 temporary. We've used it for a number of community events, a small number, Market 720, the Main Street Festival, and the Winter Fest. I think what's exciting is that our records indicate that we have sold 10,450 cups.
Wow.
That equates to a conservative estimate of over $52,000 in additional commercial activity for those 4 businesses or activities. And that's assuming that the cost of the beverage was $4. The charge was $4. Which is low.
Yeah.
So we think that $52,000 is well above that.
Does that include the dollar for each cup? No.
Yeah.
No, not
Yeah.
Well, here's what we've done. Yes, it does. We
Okay.
sold, let me lay this out for you. We sold the cups to the permit holders for 64 cents.
Oh.
All right? The vendor sold the cup for $1
Right.
plus the cost of the beverage. So it's conceivable that the vendor made 36 cents on the cup, plus somewhere between $4 and $6 per beverage.
So 10,000 cups, what we sold to the vendors, or what the vendors sold in product?
We sold.
Okay, so they could be holding some cups.
They could be holding some. But we sold 10,000 cups
At 64 cents.
at 64 cents. Okay? One of the issues that came up was what kind of problems could we anticipate? Ben queried the police department, and we had 0 calls for service. I think 0.
I know people were worried about that.
They were worried about it.
Well, a few.
But the point is that we've had 0. Now,
That's awesome.
I will concede that we had 1 person who was intoxicated, but evidence strongly suggested that he arrived intoxicated in a celebratory mood.
So turning the wrestling event.
I
Pretty
I
sure it
don't-
was.
You are not to wear wrestling tights again. At any rate,
That's not public.
it is. I think the point is that the DORA appears to be working as intended. We'll get into our 2nd season. We'll take a look at it at the season's end again, a year from now, to see where we are. And I think, as we indicated earlier, not only does the DORA support nonprofits, but it also supports our restaurants. And one of those restaurants in particular that I checked with, one of those vendors, said that he'd secured over a month's rent on one day at the Main
Wow.
Street Festival. And that's really huge
Wow.
as our local businesses work to survive. And we know that particularly during COVID, restaurants were particularly vulnerable to declining income. So I think we got something out of it. All of you should have in your packets, or Ben has probably mailed to you, a copy of the City Scene magazine
Yeah.
for Columbus
That was a great
that
article.
details the status of the doors in Franklin County. And again, I think what we're doing is consistent with what they're doing. They're a little farther ahead down there. They've achieved more success. But again, it underscores how the DORA can help our community activities in the city. On a more personal note, I would also say that it underscores the administration's plan to improve Bitzer. I still think that's something that we want to look at. It's a great DORA venue for activities, whether it's Friday night jazz, Friday night food trucks, whatever that looks like. And if you look at the City Scene magazine story,
Yeah.
you'll see that communities are doing that kind of stuff. Well, I think we can too. So,
I think what I liked about that too, it was almost like if you didn't do it down there, you were just way out of the loop.
yep,
Almost like what was wrong with your community.
Yep.
And knowing that we have other communities around us that are doing it, like I was really proud kind of all of Stark County. And glad to know that we were a part of it.
yeah, and I think the thing of it is that impressed me about the article, Stephanie, is that you can build certain kinds of events with your DORA.
Yeah.
It serves as an additional attraction. If you've got food, some music, you've got the DORA, you'll draw a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's art, whether it's antiques, or just, Market 720.
Yeah.
And I think to your point of selling 10,000 cups and having 0 calls for service, you're attracting people, but you're not attracting the people that are gonna do ill. So,
Well, I think the other point is this, is the administration at the time we did this indicated that it was going to commit the law enforcement resources to figuratively and literally police the event. And it has. We had no incidents with citizens, we haven't had litter issues. The administration has done a terrific job rolling this out in the last year. So,
Great.
we're onward upward. I've exhausted my couple minutes. I want to thank Ben for helping grab some of the stuff.
One quick question.
Yes.
Who are the 2 permanent holders and who are the 2 temporary, you know?
The 2 permanents are Hollingbird and Pavs.
Okay.
And then we've got the Chamber.
The chamber and then Market 720 both
720.
hold F permits that participated in it.
So is there any type of goal on how many permanents or temporaries we'd like to get?
Well, John, that's a great question, and let me just share this thought with you. What I'd like to see is a couple of restaurants go into the bottom of the Hoover facility, convert the front lawn of Hoover to an outdoor dining area.
Well, that would be great, but that's down the line, hopefully.
But
Yeah.
here's the point, is, for example, let's assume you wanted a little art gallery, wanted to do an event,
Right.
that it would include a DORA function. That would be perfect. Again, that's what we see in Franklin County. The library might want to do something.
My son went to school down at Capitol, and
There you go.
Bexley is a
Bexley's
great thing. They even have it during their farmer's market, which is out on the street, and it's good.
I think we're only limited by the calendar and by our imaginations. And I think we ought to be open to, again, looking at events, and again, they don't necessarily have to be big events.
No.
But let's assume for the sake of argument that the little art gallery wanted to do an art auction. Wanted a permit, they wanted a DORA, we get some food out there, and they've got a great event.
Well, and
So the library does Live at the Library, Thursdays in June and July. So we bring in a food truck and have live music on the portico. And this year that's been expanded in partnership with the city to be called the North Canton Summer Series. So the Dora is being promoted as part of that, Howlin' Bird's involved, so that'll be every Thursday, June and July, 5:30 to 7.
That's perfect.
So, yeah, it's, you know, I think it just brings people out
It
and
does.
down, yeah.
Yep.
Where they wouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think your Bitzer idea is great with the
Yeah.
food trucks and stuff there.
And again, it's something down the road. But, you know, again, if you look at the Columbus-Franklin County scene, it's clear they have a broad variety of interesting things to do, of which the door is a component. So, any other comments? Okay, we'll talk about it in a year.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Moving on, finance and property. Stephanie.
Okay, you can kind of see the expenses and what totals to almost $7,250,000. Some is from the COVID relief and from the vans. And Gina, would you like to talk about that, especially the $4 million? And
There are four, and I do want to add one. It's listed on the second page as a zero because we need to reallocate $20,000 from wages to contract services in the water fund. So I do need your authorization to add that as well. But it would be Fund 650, Department 768. And we're just moving not new money, just we're moving 20,000 from personnel down to contract services. So that would be the fifth. So we do have general fund. This is following up on our bands, our economic development bands that we're rolling over, and then that we're also adding $2.5 million. So I have to gross all of those transactions up on the books. Even though we're not paying them off, we're still in essence paying them off and issuing new ones. So I need to kind of create those gross transactions on the books, and these appropriations will take care of that. Along with the Law Enforcement Education Fund. In the past, I believe they had CPT funds, and it was always a reimbursement from prior year's training, and now they are advancing those funds to us for payroll hours. That's a first that we haven't seen before. And then COVID relief, that is a $3,600. All of the entities in the county or the state that decided they didn't want their allocation, they reallocated those to those of us who said, yes, we do want it. And so our additional amount was $3,600. That takes care of them.
Okay, move to put that on the
So
agenda.
you need an
I
amendment?
need an amendment.
Oh, amendment for the
Yes,
20,000.
Yes, please, thank you.
Revolt will move that legislation be amended.
Second?
Yes. I will second. Well, I moved, you seconded.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to street and alley. Could I have a motion and a second to, are we reading? No.
No.
Okay. So this is mine. So, Rob, could I have you explain to the new people what a performance bond is, or how, not performance bond, but what you do to take things out to bid? Because I think we're gonna get into the season where we're gonna get a lot of street and alley stuff. So for the new people, maybe just explain how that goes, maybe even include some of the grant language
Sure.
and things like that for the new people.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What 5A is one of our grant sources is federal monies that we get through SCATS, Stark County Area Transportation Study. Basically, it's our Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, that handles the federal funds for Stark County. And with this one, it's all based on the federal fiscal year calendar. And if Stark County, if we have a little over $1 million that we don't spend in a fiscal year, they can take it from us. ODOT and the Fed will literally take it from us and say, okay, Stark County, if you can't handle it, we'll give it to Akron, we'll give it to Cleveland. So what we do to guard against that is, and I'm having to be chair of the committee last year and this year, is we always have what we call reservoir projects. Basically, shovel-ready is a fancy term, where they're just simple repaving projects, that if other projects come in under budget, or if a community falls behind with their plan development, we have stuff ready to step in and not lose this money. So what happened with this one for Glenwood, I had an application in that wasn't funded initially, but when it looked like we had like 1.2 million we had to use or lose. So we were granted this grant, and I think I had reported that to council back in late January, I believe. And what it does is it pays for 85% of the repaving of all of Glenwood Street from South Main, or Glenwood Street Southwest, I should say, from Glenwood, or from South Main to Whipple. And it pays 80%, so the conservative estimate at the time, it's a little closer to reality what the times we're in. I had it at $618,750, and the grant will cover up to $495, or 80% of that. But literally, if we didn't spend it, we'd lose it. So we were right there, had it. So what this ordinance is for tonight is just to go out to bid, like we would on any other project. Because we got the grant so late in the game, we did the ordinance either at the end of '21 or early this year, where we got all these over $50,000 projects out of the way, but we hadn't gotten this grant yet. So this is just coming back to you for that permission for us to go out to bid and award it during following our normal protocols to award it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone have any questions on how that process works or anything? Or specifically about this particular item?
I have one question.
Mhm.
Rob, when would you anticipate this project started?
Starting, we have to award the project before the end of the fiscal year. So we will award the project, we'll encumber the funds in Columbus before the end of June 30th, basically. We have a water line project on Glenwood that we've already awarded. We've got to get that done first. They could be starting there in 2 to 3 weeks. I can hold the bids after, we can award it, but hold the notice to proceed for up to 60 days. I guess the short answer is, I would say late summer that we would get started on this. We've got to finish the Glenwood water line first and then get in there immediately after and repave it, but definitely this season.
So those who use Glenwood or reside there can anticipate disrupted summer.
They will have a disruptive summer, but it will lead to, with the polymer asphalt, 10 years of smooth sailing.
Need additional police revenues.
Especially westbound. Down the hill.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, questions for everybody?
So that's 10 years it'll last?
On average, I think that's a safe bet, yeah, maybe even more. Well, it depends on subsurface conditions, but I think 10 years is a good rule of thumb, especially with the more expensive polymer pavement that we're using, because we have the grant to pay for it.
Thanks.
Polymer was Dominic Fonte's favorite thing to talk about. So that's,
Well,
shout out to
that
Dominic.
is
Really say
He loved it though.
Yeah.
I move that we put this on the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So moving on to 5B. So this is the, this is the performance agreement for the McKinley Apple Grove project. You should answer.
Potential spam.
So again, let's just start from the beginning. And Rob, can you explain how a performance agreement would work for this?
Yeah, absolutely. What this is Sanctuary Phase 5. And I think last week, maybe even tonight, the final third reading for Sanctuary Phase 5, or maybe we passed it already. But that was the preliminary plat. This piece is the performance guarantee, that now the contractor next will step in and build it. And that's a function of the construction cost estimate, which they gave us an estimate. I looked it over. I think it was like $691,000. So now they have to post a bond that if the developer was to become bankrupt for whatever reason, not complete the project, the bond is there for the city to step in and complete it, because the roads will become ours. Obviously, we don't anticipate that being a problem with our developer in Phase 5 of a beautiful neighborhood, but that's still what our ordinance requires. And then roughly a year from now, is that bond will be reduced to just 10% of it, so 61,000, and that's in the form of a maintenance bond. That if something falls apart, a section of curb breaks, a manhole collapses, we still have that for another year if they would not fix it themselves, where the city has the ability to cash in that bond, go fix it. And then 5C is the last component, which is the sidewalk bond. Separate from the roadway construction, that neighborhood, per our ordinance, has to have sidewalk on both sides of the road. So our rough estimate for the 2,000 feet of 5-foot wide sidewalk is $54,000. So then they post another bond for that, but that could be years from now, or maybe we'll chip away at it, depending how fast it develops. As each house is completed, the builder builds a sidewalk in front of that individual home. So it could take a while, or they seem to be selling quite quickly out there, so maybe not so long. But eventually, the developer will ask us, reduce the performance bond to the maintenance bond in 10%, and then he'll also ask us to release the maintenance and then ultimately release the sidewalk bond.
Perfect, thank you, Rob.
Yep.
Any questions about 5B or how the performance bonds work, anything like that?
Is this different? Last week we had talked about someone getting a hold of the contractor and making the necessary changes on that. There was a whole.
That was in Monticello, Phase 8, and accepting the final plat. I think we've gone to just the maintenance bond there for the 10% amount. A punch list item was getting that gate in Monticello, the lock for it. That's a couple $100 item based on hundreds of thousands of construction. But still, if they wouldn't, well, number one, if they wouldn't pass it, I doubt you tonight would pass the third reading. And secondly, we could cash in a bond if they never got us that lock. I mean, obviously, they're not gonna get a bad grade with their bonding company over a $200 lock.
Did they get back to us?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk about that.
okay, we'll come
It's
on.
on the next
Yeah,
agenda.
excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
On that item, I would just like to read into the record an email from Chief Bacon to Stephanie, or it was from Rob to Stephanie, but from Chief Bacon, has confirmed that the Knox box lock for the Monticello gate has indeed been ordered by the developer, and the chief did approve the developer's order with Knox. And so we're just following up with the developer to make sure that is being delivered timely and installed. But there could be potential, I'm gonna say it affects everything, global supply, pandemic, where's it on back order, when will it come in, all kinds of issues.
Yep, and I could take that a
It's being
step.
followed up on.
I could take that a step further, Patrick. That they also sent me their FedEx tracking number. The thing arrived today in Uniontown at 11:14 a.m. So I know it's for the next meeting, but
Yeah.
it's here. It's not hanging on the street yet, but it's here.
We're on.
Thanks.
Rob, are you good?
Almost.
I know.
All right, well, I motion that we put this on the agenda.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 5C, so Rob, explain, what's that?
Did Rob explain it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Oh.
yeah, but we didn't, we're gonna vote on C still. So this is for the sidewalks that we just discussed, this $54,255. Any questions on how that process works or this specific ordinance? Okay, I move that we put this on the agenda.
Second.
Warren, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And any more new business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourn. Pause for 90 seconds.
Did you tell me that she had never done that before?
You ready, Ben?
Yeah.
I now call to order the special city council meeting of April 4th, 2022. Time is 7:24 p.m. Opening prayer? Amy.
Heavenly Father, you promise to open doors of blessing and abundance for your people. We ask that you would work mightily in us today. Come upon us and cause us to have a productive meeting. Lead each one of us so that we can make fruitful contributions at this time. Enable us to think and strategize in ways that will achieve great results. Purify our thoughts and motives so that each one of us will enter this meeting desiring the good of others and the pleasure of your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ben, would you please call the roll?
Member McLeod?
Here.
Member Wyrick?
Here.
Member Waring?
Here.
Member Schroy?
Here.
Member Revolt?
Here.
Member Matheny?
Here.
And Member Orr?
Here.
7-3.
Okay. Recognition of the public at this time. Members of the public wishing to address City Council may do so. Each speaker will be granted 5 minutes. As a reminder, the rules are now posted on the screen to the audience's right. As this is a special council meeting, we ask that the topics discussed will be limited to those appearing on the agenda.
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. First of all, I'd like to point out your agenda says this meeting is starting at 8 p.m. So any citizen who shows up here at 8 is probably going to miss the meeting. Does everybody see that? When I saw that, I thought, you're going to be in a jam because do you really think the committee of the whole is really going to last an hour? Typically, what you put on your agenda is that the special council meeting will follow the committee of the whole meeting. So I don't know why they switch up in process. Secondly, I'd like to ask your indulgence, since you spoke at the committee of the whole about the door, I'd like to address that. Or is everybody going to jump up and scream?
Mr. Osborne, I would object because it is not an item on our regular council agenda or our special council meeting agenda. The door is not an item. There is no action to be taken.
I understand that,
and
Mr.
therefore,
Revolt,
you
but it's
may,
been freshly discussed here. Anybody who's interested in this issue would have heard it, and it's timely to have.
We're going to stick to the
Public.
rules.
we're going to stick to the rules.
Well, thank you.
Anyone else?
If I may.
What's that?
If I may.
Yes.
Yes, there was a version of the agenda originally published that had 8 p.m. on the top. That is because our Granicus software requires a timestamp to be in it, so I have to manually go in and switch it out with the words immediately following committee at 7. However, the top page of the agenda packet, which Mr. Osborne is referencing, which is the legal notice for this meeting to happen, does currently and always said immediately beginning at 7 p.m. So the very first page of the packet published to the website said immediately following committee at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, moving on to old business. Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 26-2022?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance amending Chapter 103 Official Standards of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Canton in order to adopt a new city seal.
This is the third reading of this. We haven't had any discussion, no one's objected. We've been using the new seal for quite some time. It's just a matter of getting it cleaned up and off the books. So I make a motion that we pass this evening.
Revolt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 6B. Can I Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 27-2022?
Revolt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance repealing chapter 701, general licensing provisions of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton.
Again, this is the third reading, we haven't had any discussions. It's about how to go and file the licensing and that nature of that stuff. So again, I think we should just go ahead and pass this tonight.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, that's a motion, sorry.
Revolt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 6C. Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 28-2022?
Revolt will move.
Wait a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance repealing chapter 709, commercial amusements of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton.
Again, it's a third reading, we haven't had any, no one's really objected to this, and we already passed the preceding one, so this one should be passed as well. I make a motion.
Revolt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 6D. Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 29-2022?
So moved?
Wait a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance amending chapter 137, Department of Police of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton, specifically section 137.04, personnel, in order to increase the authorized number of police sergeants to 6.
This is our third reading, this ordinance allowing Chief Kemp to have six sergeants on staff instead of the 5 that are in the ordinance. Wouldn't do that to you. But allowing the 6 sergeants then gives him more flexibility in scheduling. It's not adding total personnel staff, it is just reallocating the titles and individuals. I make a motion that we pass the third reading of this and allow Chief Kemp to schedule as needed.
Revolt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 6E. Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 30-2022?
Revolt will move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this is street and alley, and we just talked, go ahead.
Let me read it.
Oh, sorry.
An ordinance accepting a record plat of Monticello Phase 8 located within the corporate limits of the city of North Canton.
All right, sorry, Ben. Okay, so we just talked about this before briefly. The lockbox is not there, but we have a way to move forward, correct, Brad?
Yes, we do.
So I will make a motion.
Revolt will second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to new business. Can I have a motion and a second to suspend Council Rule 24 to allow for consideration of the items appearing on the April 4th, 2022 Committee of the Whole agenda without a written committee report?
Revolt will move.
Wait a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 36-2022?
Where moves?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds of the city of North Canton to be appropriated for current expenses during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022.
Okay. We talked about all these. There are no other objections or anything? Move to adopt.
Revolt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves.
Wait a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 36-2022 under the suspension of the rules?
Revolt moves.
Wait a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 37-2022?
So moved.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to advertise and receive bids and enter into a contract for the repaving of Glenwood Street Southwest at a cost not to exceed $618,750 and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Okay, we discussed this in the committee of the whole. Any further comments or questions?
Move to adopt?
Revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt will move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 37-2022 under the suspension of the rules?
Revolt will move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 5B, can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 38-2022?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to enter into a performance agreement with McKinley Applegrove Limited for the construction of streets, stormwater management facilities, drainage improvements, and sewer improvements for the Sanctuary Phase 5 development.
Okay, and we just had discussed this in the previous meeting. I move that we adopt.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And, 5C, can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 39-2022?
Revolt will move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to accept a sidewalk performance bond in the amount of $54,225 between the city and McKinley Applegrove Limited and accept the accompanying mortgage deed for city lot number 6952, thereby securing the bond for all necessary work required to complete sidewalks in the Sanctuary Phase 5 construction project.
Okay, and we discussed the sidewalk bond in the previous meeting. Are there any comments or questions? I move we adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we adjourn, any comments or questions? I do want to make a brief statement on, we have a public meeting on the 11th, and there are going to be some people that are not going to be here. So can I get a tally of who's going to be here in person on the 11th?
Me.
95% yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll have 4 probably. Okay. We may need somebody to call in via Zoom if possible, but, okay, all right, so we're covered for them. Anything
Before you
further?
adjourn,
Sure, go
I'd
ahead.
just like to say thank you to Chief Kemp and to Chief Bacon. Thursday evening, they provided us a tour of their facilities, gave us an opportunity after 5 o'clock to see their operations and meet some of the personnel, and they took time out of their day to adjust their schedules for council to do that, and it was greatly appreciated. It was eye-opening for us. Thank you.
And David, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to echo the same thing. And although Chief Bacon isn't here, you know, it was interesting that we were actually at the EMS building, or Station 2, I guess we should call it, when they had a call. And I thought it was terribly impressive that I think before we realized what was going on, they were going down the road. So very impressive. Thank you, Chief Kemp, and thanks to Chief Bacon as well.
Yeah, it did open our eyes quite a bit. I didn't realize, I always thought that was just a medic unit over there by the high school, and actually that's probably one of our main stations there, and stuff of that nature, but it's very good. You run a very, very clean operation with tight quarters over there. Thanks again.
All right, thanks. Just wanted to say a final comment that if you haven't met Kevin, introduce yourselves and welcome. And that's it. I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Adjourned.
Oh, yeah, I think it's all
One was, that's the Nature Works grant, that was specifically to buy playground equipment that was accessible, and then the capital.
How much went into that part?
Oh, the main street, oh, yeah, playground equipment, it's redone the parking, and we added parking, yes, another lot off of Orchard, with a 250 million.
Yeah, right.
Restroom facility. We had to put in some fire protection. People do.
It's kind of interesting to hear what you would want to talk about at that door. So,
So excited because the community is so excited. It took so long. Labor shortages and weather. So it was always a sign of inclusive fund coming up 21. So.
Yeah, you gotta get another round in there.
Yeah. So great. I don't have one. Like, I'm sitting but I can accept this is like how that works. And the surface, all of our other parks are doing.
Yeah, we normally have a lot more. Do you need like a card or anything, or are you good?
I will do that. Okay.
Good?
Thanks, Brad.
Factors is local, churches are expensive, so we raise more funds.
Building things, we walked in together.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I'd like to take.
You already drag? You already drag or you gonna
Run across there.
No, yes, kids, yeah. Kids.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, it was ugly. It was muddy and everything. All right, Rob, thank you.
They do, I know Green has some at theirs, but, they're, I don't know that there's any of those in the front room. You know, like they're a private residence, they might not want to tell us that's awesome.
What's that?
Is there still fencing here?
There hasn't been any. There hasn't been any.
Light poles just went up, there is a fence, so fenced in playground, and what's.
Oh, yeah, you're
also construction fence. I know, the one that says family. So the nice black fence that's going in is going in.
YouTube is amazing. You can find just everything on YouTube.
Perfect, I'll talk to Photo. I have leaving the country in 2 weeks next week. I'm only working from home. My best friend's my 10-year anniversary.
There you go. Yeah.
I also know I'm trying to bridge these stories.
I don't know necessarily when we'll be back by the 23rd. I will for us, you know, and how many, like, the time difference. Because they run out, and you know, I have that. So you know, what's the weather like there? 16, so nice. A little warmer than we are. I'm hoping this day, 3 weeks from now, a little warmer, you know, hopefully no rain. Yeah. It almost looks done. When you drive by, it looks pretty done. They are hold on to the like, don't fly over the fence. So that's why we went big. Yeah. It won't be completely the grass. Some areas, sure, be muddy. They we call landscapers tell them germination of grass. Just midday. It'll look really pretty. Sure.
Oh yeah, but I'm sure the kids are like, just
They
let us
don't
on the
care.
equipment.
Yeah.
Play. Well, I will email you to ask like what time that would be for the photographer to like peek over the fence or.
I have no idea. I really want, like, when you do the, we're gonna do it together too. Like, you know, accessibility, this is, Parks and Recs Association. This is, I don't know, I guess to me, it doesn't have our song as we have this, you know, that's,
Yeah, keep it going.
but, some of the equipment, like the zero grade. Yeah. That is the thing from here is this roll wheelchair. Yeah, see how flat it is? So it's just like you roll a wheelchair right onto it. I would say to eventually, and then you jump on and get on. With a child in a wheelchair spinning. So like, that's what inclusivity is.
Hi,
It doesn't-
Kevin.
Yeah, kids of all ages.
Good, how's your
Playing
first week
together.
going?
We have this cafe called Latte Love. Have you heard of them?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Right.
Oh, my God.
So that's like kids with special needs.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
like
lot of
slide
fun.
actually. Kids buy them and it says like, parents and I'm like, what happens when they get older? And that's what they do, job training. They'll do more, I know I did, and stuff like that.
It's cool that there's a lot of initiatives around.
Yeah.
Had a nice group set up.
Kevin, would you like to meet Sam from the camp repository?
Sam, nice to
Kevin's our new employee, just started.
I'm also new to camp, so.
So you've met Ben before, right? Have you met Ben, our council clerk?
Yeah, this is
We've all talked to you on email. We didn't know.
That's why I recognized it. I said to Kevin, when we were standing, we were talking about, I recognize her face, but I can't place it. And it's from your picture on the repository.
Oh, from that, okay. She's
Unmasked. Yes. Yeah, trying to pass the PCR to leave the country. I'm like, super strict right
Gosh, yes. Well, have a great, safe trip, and we'll see you when you get back. Thanks. Huh?
And
Let's just expand it a little.
I'm so sorry. Oh, it really was. Oh my gosh. That's really weird.
Not realizing he's
That's where I saw it.
I mean,
All right, let's see.
That's good. That's kind of terrifying for some people to see that.
people that come on Saturday. My sister went by, she did it, she's like, it's gonna be like orange. Like, she didn't mean to, yeah, which is the legal. You know, just like the Bobby Green one, and like. Yeah. Are we doing painting around, or is that blacktop?
John.
Blacktop.
John.
The path around?
The path around it is concrete.
That's all. Yeah, it's not there.
Some of it's in.
Yeah.
Some of it is always
No.
done the,
That's what I was
Hey,
thinking.
you know, just as an aside, I'm struck by the irony that somebody brings up to
I just saw her. She was her son just matched.
What'd you do? Did you break it? You guys are laid down. This is and you know, I know when
Done.
critique last week's
You're
legit.
welcome.
I've invited her now.
Oh, good, you should.
Well, we pull out the bola stuff, I mean. He sent me a video on
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Resources with the folders.
And then change like. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's really cool. Okay, so we're on, path. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had, so you said. Yeah. Here, and have that covered. No. Maybe not too much, but. Okay.
Thank you. And you guys shouldn't be sitting around chatting.
Well, they're not in a, it's not violating any
business at all.
We're not talking.
Who knows? Well, all you have to do is insert one little question about an
You
issue.
got him talking to a constituent, you got those two talking, no sunshine laws being broken here.
And you guys are getting here like a half an hour before the meeting, sitting here all by yourself here.
Talking about different things, I talked to my,
It's not allowed.
yes it is if you're not talking about business.
It's not allowed.
Yes it is. We're not violating any sunshine law. Ben looked into that, I've read the rules, we're not violating.
We're still recording. I'm just gonna
Okay, no problem.
But you guys think make this
But you have an agenda.
I don't have an agenda.
Well, you have an agenda
I'm
for every
speaking,
meeting.
I'm speaking
So
to the council
if I were
person.
in your shoes, I'd focus on one thing instead of broadening it out. One thing, and I think you'll accomplish a lot of work.
Well, I've been told that many times,
You know?
but there's so many things to address.
Yeah, but you got 5 minutes, pick one, fight it passionately, and it might break through some skulls in there. Right?
This is not allowed. This is not allowed.
Yeah, most people don't know. You see us out, we're gonna start writing a resolution this morning for the Canton Council, and you come back and they all have their, original.
Oh. Yeah.
And that's part of why when we passed that ordinance to make the charter board, we put in there about the all rules in writing and Ben's had to explain what we wanted to change. We had to put our
Yeah, well. So is it just script harder than
City Hall structure.
Right.
I have been. Good. Want to hear it? It's been 5 years. A couple of times.
Oh, no.
For various reasons. So, I'm not sure. Movie meets all the rings, but they've been able to gain some space.
Well, because that's his job. He was always chairman.
You know we have an online form, maybe I'm just gonna start putting you in the online form.
Where is it?
Our challenge is
Council. Seven, 8 people. So, I have to go reorganize someone's space, but, I don't know how much, what I spent reorganizing, I don't know how much I'm gonna gain. You know what, when I picked my, for the money that we spent for charges, we get more space for dispatch center, you get more space.
I mean, if it's not in the station,
COVID. I can't separate.
And off it, and off it.
I don't know, you voted for Part 17, man. I didn't know.
We talked about knock down the wall in front of them. The concrete wall.
You totally always do. I just say, true magic.
There's gonna be more too, you can tell, like,
The one tax is going, yeah.
and then there's one that's very cracked,
So those four things,
Take one.
first quarter, very good sergeants of the traffic to me.
Who would be, why did it just?
but yes. Very beautiful.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Added to it.
They've done a very good job.
Not necessary.
That's what it is.
Oh, that night was the executive session.
All right, good. Nice chat. Guy next to me, Dave, Matheny, in a private situation about the door.
I mean, these ones in particular.
Okay? So, you might want to reach out to him, because he told me to let you know.
Good night. Thanks for asking me, Clay.
That's why I'm still standing. Waiting for all of you.
Yes.